I was joking about escape rooms with a friend on Messenger when he typed this phrase that came up as a link on both of our phones: someone to lock you in. If you tap the link, it launches your map software with that line as a query. But why did Messenger parse that phrase as a map reference link? I set about to figure this out with my friend Milo, who knows about this kind of stuff. We had a look if it was trying to answer a query, like we'd expressed panic and needed a locksmith. I tried talking about needing other services, or even just locksmiths, and that wasn't a thing. Messenger doesn't do that. Along the way, we noticed that the word lock could be substituted for key, and either of their plurals. We wondered which other parts could be substituted. Firstly, one. Notice that only the letters of the word one in that first word are underlined. Any word that ends with O-N-E will work. We've not found any other textual numbers that work, kind of surprisingly, but it looks like all positive numerical integers work, at least up to 99,999, plus 0, and much higher if you use commas. Then that second word, two, turns out it can be anything. Actually, three anythings. You can inflate the phrase with any three words separated by various punctuation. The fourth element, you, we tried substituting other pronouns like me, that, everyone, and realized that it could be any pronoun until we realized it can just be any word. That says something about testing on the micro before the macro. Yeah, same as the second bit, but it can be up to 10 parts. So these are kind of the adaptable sauces and salads between the necessary bread at the start and end and a filling of your choice in the middle. Lock or key burger. And that final piece, you can't extend it. Even punctuation breaks it. It's got to end with either in or, here's Milo's main breakthrough, in is short for Indiana. The map link is coming up because in a screwed up way, it believes this might be us writing an address. The final two-letter word can be swapped for any abbreviation of a US state or territory, or even their full names. They just can't have anything after them. I'm going to call these states as synecdoche. The US Postal Service website has a list of states, and it proves exactly what works. You can say the whole Federated States of Micronesia. You can refer to other states within the address as long as it ends with a state. It's only checking the terminus. Terminus has to be a state. I get to have a breakthrough too, because why does an address recognizer like lock and key? Because those are both in very obscure contexts. Kinds of places you might live, might get something addressed to. The USPS recognizes an array of potential street suffixes, and in this 250-year-old country, they're kind of finite. It's not got that odd, occasional aged whimsy of the UK. You can basically program a verifier of street names by saying it'll start with up to 3 varied words and end with one of a set of words. These words can be found on the USPS website. Most of these check out, with a couple of exceptions we don't yet know how come, and a couple of the abrevs thrown in, but Messenger is checking a list very similar to this webpage. What Messenger does do is try to give a link when you mention an address, but not very consistently. I can't make it work with UK addresses. We've only made it work with USA-style addresses, ending with a state. So it's a pseudo address. The mention of someone to lock you in was parsed as if it were the address. 1, to lock, that's the street name, in the town of U, Indiana. Wish you were here. Tap this to get exact coordinates of that address. Or not, because the map software knows that's nonsense, it's just that Messenger doesn't. Back to the numbers, you can extend that number with a letter at the end, a hyphen, 2 hyphenated letter properties, basically anything that might be the numerical value at the start of an address. It just doesn't like any spelt out words except one, for some reason. So there are some oddities along the way, but what we're giving is an address with 4 salient parts: a number, a street name, a town, and then a recognized state. There's some interplay between the street name and the town, the two parts that surround the street name suffix. We know the street name can have 3 words and the town can have 10, but as long as their collective word count is above 1, either of them can be absent. It looks like the post suffix can actually go up to 11 words because their collective hard limit is when both parts total to 11 words. I posit that this is to accommodate for when street names have something like a cardinal direction at the end, but obviously it's a messy system, not something that can be perfectly programmed. Words seem to be limited to 25 characters, excluding punctuation. Messenger must have been programmed to recognize addresses and follow them through to links. It's useful. I think I've at least seen it work for UK addresses at some point. It feels like a feature they've pushed and pulled as they're getting used to how it works. It also creates links when you mention web pages, which is obviously useful. Occasionally some derivatives of web pages such as subreddits and numbers. I guess phone numbers? Do people call phone numbers? But here, only popping up when the message ends with the state, it feels like a vestige of an imperfect feature, especially with the clumsy programming of recognizing the word someone as the number 1 at the start of an address. Milo and I set out to see what other false positives we can make. The first and last elements are restrictive, but we can have fun with the middle word and do nearly anything with the other ones. Given the limited appeal of this content, each is going up for a second, and you can browse in slow-mo if you really want to read it. It's like a VHS Easter egg. If you liked this video, you're either me or Milo, and I'm not even sure on that second one.